Welcome everyone. As you begin joining the session, we're going to take a couple more minutes to have the rest of the attendees to join, and we'll get started. In the meantime, if you can confirm you can see my screen, I'll be grateful if you do so via the Q&A section or the chat. All right. Okay, let's get started then. This session is being recorded. So we're going to be sending it, uploading it soon. If you want to share this with your team after you have share the webinar with us. My name is Gabriel Sang. I'm product specialist here at Techdinamics, and today we're going to have this webinar on mastering OMR and advanced restrictions. We're going to be focusing on OMR, how it relates to advanced restrictions. Let's review a little bit about the program and run a couple of tests. Okay. So first of all, we're going to see how does OMR work. OMR being order management rules. It's a really useful tool that can help you fill gaps that your WMS might have or simplify how you can handle information flow into TechShip or within TechShip. So we're going to be diving a little bit deeper on that, how it works. We're also going to see when should you use OMR or advanced restrictions. Even though advanced restrictions is not going to be the main focus of this webinar, we're going to have a quick review of it and see how it can impact and combine its usage with OMR. We're also going to see an example on how to translate a real-life scenario to OMR rules, which I believe is the biggest challenge. Once you understand how the feature works, which is quite simple, the challenge becomes actually translating your business scenarios and the cases that you want to handle within the OMR module. Okay, so we're going to see a couple of examples how these combine together as well. That's the idea. And we're going to review practical scenarios. Okay, besides the theory that we're going to be talking about, we're going to jump into TechShip later within this webinar to actually define some OMR rules based on some of the scenarios that we're going to describe. Okay. If you have any questions, any doubts, anything you'd like to share, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A section to post those, and questions will be addressed at the end of the session. Okay. So how does OMR work? Let's set a starting point. So order management rules are automatic rules that can be executed whenever an order meets specific conditions, could be more than one, based on their data. And when it comes to actions, applying flags, adding or overriding information, covering blind spots your WMS might have, and a couple more scenarios. Okay. So from a usability perspective, these are defined at the client level, providing flexibility because maybe some of your clients might have needs or use cases that another might not. So these OMR rules can be defined at the client level. For client A, you can have one set of OMR rules. For client B, you might not have OMR rules at all. Client C, a whole different set from client A, providing you full flexibility on what you want to control for which client you like. Then these can be triggered upon import or when processing orders. Okay, so depending on when you want to review the order data is when you might want to trigger the actions. A couple of quick examples of this is, for example, if you are going to control or define OMR rules based on SKU information or ship to address information, you might want to trigger that that rule when you import the order. Why? Because that information is surely coming from the WMS. You're not making up the address, or you're not making up the SKUs that you have within the orders on the fly, right? But for example, if the orders that you're pushing into TechShip uh, do not have weights or dimensions, you're going to be using a dimensioner, a scale, or choosing a predefined box at the packing line. That's something you do after you import the order, right? You push the order in from the WMS into TechShip, and once the order is within TechShip, then you go for the weights, dimensions, and some other information. So in that case, it wouldn't make sense to have under that scenario a weight rule. For example, apply I don't know, apply insurance for every order that is that is over 20 pounds, right? Or send the orders to a specific service if it's over 20 pounds. If you don't have those 20 pounds coming from the WMS, you need to first import the order, then assign the weight to then at the last moment when you go to process the order, have the rule check the order information you provided at the packing line and actually hit what your rule said. Okay. So again, these can be triggered upon import or when you process the order. Okay. Whichever applies to the case, depending on the scenario you have. And then OMR rules are unlimited. There's no amount limits per client. You can add as many rules as you want, as long as these don't conflict with each other. When it comes to logic, they don't contradict each other. In other words, you're absolutely free to add as many as you wish, controlling as many parameters within your order as you need. All right. So this is how OMR works. This is sometimes a point of debate. When do you use OMR rules and when do you use advanced restrictions? Okay. And while these two are quite similar at the time of definition, I don't know how familiar you are with advanced restrictions, but these are typically used for rate shopping and to define rules for your rate shopping. At the usability level, these are not the same. Okay. Typically, these are the most relevant observations on the differences between these two features. First of all, the restrictions, advanced restriction could depend from OMR information, but not vice versa. Why? Because typically, you define information within OMR that affects the restrictions, okay? There is information that you tweak through an OMR rule when you import the order, even when you process, than restrictions. Because from an execution standpoint, OMR rules will always execute before restrictions. Okay, restrictions are applied once you have already attempted to process the order and got rates from the carrier. So TechShip says, okay, if I have restrictions that I only need to get ground and the second day rates, but more rates come through, TechShip is going to get all the rates that apply to the case, but it's only going to cherry pick the ones that you selected, ground today. And based on that, just restrict it to those two services. But OMR is much, when it comes to the timeline, it executed and acted much earlier than the restriction. Okay. In terms of the range of application, OMR rules applied at a client level, okay, while the restrictions do at a carrier level. When you define a restriction, for example, rate shop ground today and I don't know, 3-day select for FedEx, for example, or UPS, be a similar service. That restriction that you define, the service level restriction, is defined at the carrier account. Is UPS or FedEx this and that service, while OMR rules apply to the whole client, regardless of the carriers that you have under that client. OMR rules will apply to the client as a whole. Okay, and OMR's let's say limitations come, or the let's say the range of action comes between client and client. So client A could have one rule, client B could have another one, but it affects the client as a whole. And then another difference between these two is that the conditional parameters for each are slightly different. There are some parameters available for OMR or through OMR that advanced restrictions doesn't have, because OMR is it's broader in terms of the things you can do, since it's not tied to a specific carrier. It's more generic, to say it so. Okay. So depending on the case, you might want to use OMR alone, you might want to use restrictions alone, or a combination of both. Okay, we'll see a couple of cases later. So once you have understood how it works and how you define these, the challenge again comes into how to translate your real life scenario to the rules within the system, right? How do you tell the system how you want to fix your scenario? Okay. So from a conceptual standpoint, OMR has two key elements. One of those are the conditions, and the other one is the actions. Okay. And what matters the most is to understand the following. First of all, that the conditions need to be a statement that ends in a true or it has to be a statement that ends in a true or false statement. Okay. Whichever condition you try to define has to result in a true or false statement, right? If you're doing a restriction over weight, it's either true or false. The shipment is over or not over 5 pounds, or 5 pounds as such, right? So it's 5 pounds or more, or less than 5 pounds, right? Or if you're going to be checking, for example, the instructions field, right? Or the payment terms. It's either one thing or the other. So conditions need to end or need to be true or false statements at the end, okay? We're going to be reviewing a couple of practical cases for this. So based on those conditions, if the conditions are met, that means that it's going to be true, whatever you're checking, and then you can apply the action. And if it's false, it's going to be ignored. So true is basically the next step from the condition to the action. And false is just a dead end for whatever you have set on that condition and the actions for it. Okay. Based on this first point, the second one is tied to it. The parameters you provide from the WMS are key for a condition to be useful, okay? So if you want to set a proper, complete, and useful condition, you need to make sure that you can pass that information from the WMS into TechShip, okay? In some cases, out of the box, you have everything you have coming from the WMS. In some other cases, you might need to set up custom mappings and a couple more things with the help of the implementations team on Techdinamics end. Let's say typically what we call flex field mapping or custom field mapping, which are fields that might not be part of the regular WMS implementation. Let's say that your WMS has a lot of room for custom fields, and these are not obviously not mapped by default within the WMS plugin that you're using to connect TechShip to your system. So additional mapping might be required, and you can target that those additional mappings um, from OMR. Okay, but again, you have to make sure you can pass the information you want to check from the WMS into TechShip. Then as for the actions, once you have defined your conditions, the actions is what's going to be applied when the conditions are met. And what you need to make sure or take into account here is that actions are executed in the order you determine them, okay? While conditions will be evaluated as a whole, as a group, actions will not. Actions will apply in a script-like manner, okay? So there's a way to define the order these are applied, and sometimes the order might matter, okay? Um, for example, if you're going to force an order through a carrier and a service, you cannot choose, let's say, standard overnight before you set the carrier as FedEx, because standard overnight outside the realm of FedEx doesn't exist as such. So you first need to set the carrier as FedEx and then assign the service code as standard overnight. Okay, that's just a simple example. And then the last recommendation here is that, or the last element to take into account is be careful not to set rules and actions that contradict each other. Okay, when you start using OMR, if you have many rules at the same time to be evaluated and used, you might face the issue of having contradicting rules if you're not careful enough. And maybe one rule says, well, if the weight is this, then use this service, and then if the weight is this, use that other service. You might need additional elements in your conditions if you have a collision within your logic, or depending on the case, you might not even be able to define a rule just in a simple manner. You'll need to take into account more values or fields to make a clear distinction between one case and the other. Okay, but well, we're going to see a couple of scenarios for this as well. Now, how do you translate the scenario? Okay, let's review the statements. Let's make a brief introduction because this is what we're going to reproduce and set up in the in the demo environment that we're going to use for this webinar. Okay, so let's review the statements and then prepare to build the rules for them. Okay, so let's imagine that within the things that we're shipping, we have these three scenarios. For example, your client has a special promotion that orders over $100 would get upgraded shipping to UPS expedited. And what you're going to do is also add insurance automatically. Okay. Obviously, doing this through the WMS would take a lot of work because you'll need to evaluate orders one by one, those that apply to the case, get the insurance flag on, and get the carrier and the service assigned this way. So you have to do it one by one manually. We're going to be setting up an OMR rule that does this in one shot. Okay, it's going to check the value that the orders have, and based on that, it will upgrade the shipping to UPS expedited, and then it's going to add insurance automatically. The second case is that within the stuff that we ship items that need to be checked and signed by the customer upon delivery to make sure that they were not damaged while being shipped. In other words, signature required. Okay, so we're going to be turning signature required on for some of the shipments. Okay, we'll see which ones. So those that apply to this case are the following. It says we typically identify those items that apply to this condition with part of the code being TB, since these are TVs of different sizes from 32 to 85 inches. And the description of the SKUs, not only the code has the letters TV on them, but the description also says TB and the size. So for example, you could have TB 85 inches, curved screen, whatever brand. Okay, that would be the SKU description. Okay, so that's another parameter that we can take a look at to define these rules. And also, whenever you are shipping these items, these need to go under a special UPS account, which is marked up 20%. Okay, so all the TVs shipping being shipped for this client don't go through a regular shipping account. They go through a 20% marked up account. Okay. So as you can see, there's a whole lot of conditions in just one case. We're going to see how to get this solved as well. And then regardless of the third one, okay, regardless of where the shipment is going, if the purchase is over, this is for international shipping, okay? If the purchase is over $50 of value and it's international, we pay for duties, okay? So we need to turn DDP, okay? Duties paid. So you might have similar scenarios to these. It's good that you try to map this kind of cases to your own on your side. But we're going to see how to handle these within this session. And I'm going to be showing you a couple of tools you can use to help you on this translation on your end for your specific cases as well. Okay. So, well, introductions through. Let's do it. Let's start working and get this rolling. Okay. So I have over here left this little notepad on the side so we can follow on these scenarios, and we'll be working on this environment in this section. Okay. The company that we are going to be shipping and defining these rules for is the Fantastic Company. Okay. This client has a couple of, well, a few UPS accounts set up under here and one FedEx account. As you can see, these two are for mail innovations and dangerous goods. Okay. We're not going to be focusing on this in this particular webinar. And then we have a regular UPS account and this 20% marked up account that is going to be used for shipping those TVs that we mentioned before. Okay. When it comes to OMR, there's no rules yet. Okay. But we're going to be adding these in this section. Okay. So as you start working with OMR, you'll find that there's nothing here. Okay. There are several ways to add rules. If you want to add rules one by one, which is what we're going to do right now, you can click in add rule and you can start defining it. Okay, we're going to stop by here in a moment. But you can also import rules. If you already created OMR rules, either as a template that might apply to many clients or all of your clients, or you already have many of the regular cases covered in one of your clients, you can download the rules and you can import those in the new client. So these are the two ways to push information and rules within or into a client, either manually adding them or importing them from a previous setup. Okay. When we add rules, what we do is click in the add rule button. As you can see over here, we have the elements that we mentioned before. We have the trigger that we can set to import or process, depending on the case. We have priority if there's if you have many rules, and in some cases orders that might conflict or check the same conditions, and you want one rule to apply first than the other, you can set the priority from 1 to X. Okay, 1 being the highest priority. And then when it comes to information checking, you can check information at the order or at a line level. And depending on which you choose here is what operators you have at the time of setting up conditions. Okay. But well, let's start with the first one. So the first scenario that we need to cover says we have a special promotion that orders over $100 will get upgraded shipping to UPS expedited, and we will add insurance automatically as well. So first of all, our first question is going to be, when am I going to trigger this rule? In this case, none of this information or the information that we need to check, which is the value of the shipment, is going to be provided after you import the order. This information typically 99.9% of the cases comes from the WMS where you have the SKU information. So in this case, we're going to choose the trigger import. Okay. Then when it comes to order level information, over here it says orders over, not SKUs over $100, right? So in that case, we're going to keep the level as order because we're not going to check SKU lines. We're going to check the order as a whole. Okay. And then we're going to have to define the condition. When it comes to conditions, conditions have 3 parts. They have the parameter that you need to or that you want to check. It has an operator, depending on the case, or depending on the field that you choose here, and then the value. Okay. In some cases, the value might be an open value, could be a fixed value, could be an expression. It all depends on how you're going to be setting this up. Okay. But let me show you how we would define this one. So the list here is really lengthy. As you can see, we have a lot of elements that you can check or verify at the time of defining your conditions. My suggestion is that you type what you need here. So for example, in this case, I'm going to be typing value. Okay. So in this case, total value of the order is the field that I'm going to be checking here. Okay. Then I need to choose an operator. In this case, it says orders over $100, okay, will get a graded shipping to UPS expedited. So over here, I could say that orders over $100, okay, it doesn't include $100. It has to be 101 or 100.01 to apply to the case, are going to get insurance. Okay, if you want to do $99 over, you can perfectly say equal to or greater than 100. Okay, those details are important. And once I have defined my condition, I press add. Okay, if I wanted to add more conditions to this rule, I could do it perfectly. Okay, I can choose something else, define the operator, define the value, and then just press add, and it's going to be included here as another rule. In this case, we're going to limit ourselves to this particular scenario. So this condition is already checking if an order is over or under $100, right? Because this condition is going to end up in a true or false statement. The shipment is either over $100 or not, true or false. Okay. What we're going to define within the action section is what's going to happen if this is true. Okay, if the condition is met. What should we do when the condition is met? Over here it says two things. We're going to change the shipping method or the service to expedited, UPS expedited, and we will also add insurance. Okay. So first of all, we're going to make sure that we change the carrier from whatever comes from the WMS to UPS. Okay, so we're going to choose SCAC over here. Now, what value do we use for this? Okay, where do we get the SCAC code from? Within the carrier section, okay, if you go to maintenance carriers, you have to find the carrier that you're using, and you have to find the account that you have defined under that client, so you can know which account is going to be targeting. It's going to be be targeted at the time of processing the order. In this case, I have the value as SCAC UPSD, so that's what we're going to do over here. SCAC UPSD and add it. And then we said that we're not going to ship it via UPS and that's it. It's going to be via UPS expedited. So we need to define and declare what service we're going to use as well. Okay. Over here, there's another action, which is service code. And in this case, the value that you need to use is the following. You might be tempted to use over here UPS expedited. Okay. And add it. Now, the issue is that the carrier will not understand UPS expedited because it has low-level codes that are used for that. Okay, maybe within the WMS, maybe within TechShip, UPS expedited is something you will see and use. But for the carrier, UPS expedited doesn't mean anything. Okay, typically they have numeric codes that allow you to tell the carrier which service they're going to use, you're going to use on their language, okay, in computer language. So in this case, we need to change this value here, okay? How do we find out what's the value that we need to pass for UPS to use UPS expedited? My suggestion is that you go to maintenance carriers, you choose the carrier, and instead of accounts, you go to service code mappings, okay? So within here, if you have mapped the service, in this case, UPS expedited is mapped, you use the column that you have in the middle, which is service code. This is what the carrier uses whenever UPS expedited is used. And when I say the carrier uses, in this case, is this particular implementation of the carrier. If you're using UPS via a native connection, this might be different. If you're using it through a reseller, this might be different. If you use it through a consolidator, this might be different. So my suggestion is that within your TechShip portal, you go to service code mappings, add the mapping, find the service, okay? And then save it to see the value that's behind that name. In this case, it's 4601. So what I'm going to do here is saying that service code 4601. So with this, we cover forcing the order via UPS, forcing the order via UPS expedited as a service code. And we also need to add insurance, okay? So what we're gonna do here, I'm just gonna type insurance. I have insurance flag, and the values that I have is true or false, either to turn it on or off. And I'm gonna add this condition here as well. As you can see, as I added all these, there are arrows over here. So I could say, well, turn insurance on first and then assign the carrier and the service. Okay. In this case, this is going to work whichever the case. But my suggestion is that you first define the carrier and the service. If you're going to be doing something as such, if you don't have that defined from the WMS, and then you turn the insurance or any other flags on, because these are accessorials within or additional services within the carrier. Okay. So if you do it this way, it will work perfectly. Every order, let's save it. Every order where the total value is over $100, like the case described, is going to go via UPS, via expedited service, and is going to get the insurance automatically turned on. And with this rule in place, we don't have to worry anymore about this type of order. Whenever an order comes through into TechShip for this client, as soon as the order is being imported, TechShip is going to say, okay, hold on. Before you come into TechShip, let's see, what's your declared value? What's your total value? Oh, it's $80. Okay, just go through. Okay, is it 120? Okay, wait a second, let's change your SCAC to UPSD, change your service code to 4601, and check your insurance flag on. After all that's done, you're good to go, and the order is fully imported and updated within TechShip as you import. Okay, good. So this is a fairly simple scenario. Okay, checking just one condition, applying just a few actions. That's okay. Scenario 2 is a little bit more complex. Okay, let's review it again. It says we ship items that need to be checked and signed by the customer upon delivery. So over here we have an action that we want to do. Okay, let's add a new rule, and we can start by the actions if you want to. Okay, in this case, what I'm going to do is say signature required, signature flagged, signature flag true. Okay, what I want to do is add in the signature flag. Okay, to make sure that the items were not damaged while being shipped. Okay, I might have another thing to do, which is forcing the order through an account, but that's later. Okay. So how do we know which orders should have this condition? Sorry, this action. So it says that we typically identify those items that should be signed upon delivery, with part of the code being TB, since these are TBs of different sizes, and the description also says TB and the size. Okay, so I have an order here that has this kind of particularity. Okay, so if I open this order, it's going to have everything regular, right? Address, information, references over here within the carry options, any accessorials or elements that might have been applied by OMR rules or coming from the WMS. And within the packaging section, I have one box, in this case measuring 50 by 10 by 40. It weighs 20 pounds, okay? And if I open this box, this is what I'm going to find, okay? SKU TV42 BR&D. This is the SKU code. Then description, 42-inch flat OLED TV. Quantity 1, country China, unit price 200, okay? So based on this, I know that one of the ways I can check if the rule should be applied or not is by either finding a code that includes the letters TV or checking the description and if including the letters TV here. Okay, so there's more than one solution when it comes to defining the conditions. Okay, I can either target the SKU code or the SKU description. Okay, it's really up to what you want to do in this kind of case. What's more comfortable for you or easier to define. Another element here is that this kind of cases can be checked at an order level or at a line level. Okay, you could say, well, if my order, if within the order I have a SKU that contains the word TB in the description, let's go with the description, okay? Contains the word TB in the description, then apply the insurance flag, okay? Or you could say, if part of the code says TB, then do this or that. So let me show you how this can be handled. If you do it at an order level, over here you'll have a few SKU fields, okay? SKU as such, SKU alone targets the SKU code, while SKU description targets the description field, okay? And within the operators here, you'll see that these are a little bit different than the ones we saw before for the total value. Because in this case, we're going to be evaluating text, not numbers. So you have operators like all in, at least one in, all not in, all like, at least one like, all not like, all match regular expression, so on and so forth. So let me walk you through the options that we have here. We have options for the in operator, okay? In allows you to define one value or more than one, okay? But it has to be the exact value. So if I would say all in or at least one in, I would have to include the whole description, okay? 42-inch flat OLED TV, okay? So if at least one of the SKUs has this description within the whole order, in this case, it only has one SKU. But if the order will have more than one SKU, I ordered a TV and I also ordered, let's say, a TV box or Apple TV device and a home theater or some, or I don't know, a sound bar, something like that. Then you might want to say, well, if at least one of the SKUs is a 42-inch flat OLED TV, then do something, right? But the thing is that if you define the rule this way, you'll have to define one rule per each type of TV that you're shipping, let alone if you have different brands, right? If you have a Philips, if you have an AOC, if you have a, I don't know, Samsung TV, whatever brand you have, you're going to have one rule per brand. And that would be insane because you will have a never ending, let's say, because as you add more brands or remove, never ending schema of maintenance for these rules, permanently adding, removing, and editing these rules as you remove or add items to the SKUs that you handle. Okay, so you could take a generic approach and say, as long as it says TV on it, then I'm going to apply this rule. And what you can do in this case is say, well, if at least one is like, and the like operator allows me to use wildcards like asterisk over here. And if I use it this way, it's going to say, well, if at least one of the SKUs within the whole order has the word TB before or after anything else, which are the asterisks, okay? Anything could be before and anything could be after the word TB or the letters TB together, then apply the action. So in this case, it could be a 42-inch flat screen TV, a Samsung TV, could be an 85-inch Philips TV, could be, I don't know, a 14-inch portable TV, and it's going to work anyway. Because within the description, at least one of the SKUs in the order, because we're checking the order level, remember this, has the word TV at some point or part of the SKU description. Okay, so in this case, this is going to work perfectly because if we check this here, this means that, let me open another notepad, that this rule is going to apply because this description has TV at the end. So if there's anything before TV, it's true, and the rule should apply, right? If there would be anything after TV, in this case, we would say TV 42-inch flat OLED. This is also going to work because you're telling the system, hey, if there's anything after TV as well, check it as true, right? So using these wildcards, these asterisks over here, allows you to check anything that might have that word within the condition. And in this case, again, we're seeing if at least one of the SKUs contains this information at the order level. Okay. So we're going to add that condition there because this is what we need to check. It doesn't matter over here. It doesn't say, well, if it's TVs from 32 to 50 inches apply to this rule, and then from 50 inches upwards, it doesn't. Right. In this case, it just says we typically identify those items with part of the code being TB, and the description also says TV and the size. In this case, the size factor is fully relevant. Okay, if we would have a tier structure of, well, if from this amount of from this size on or this size downwards, do this or do that. In that case, you might want to add something else to your rule. Okay, in this case, it's already controlling it as a broad solution. Okay. Now, this condition is going to catch the case. So every TV is going to be any order containing a TV is going to be captured here. So it's going to automatically get the signature required flag as true. But we also have one more action to apply, which is that these orders, going through these orders including TVs, need to go under a special UPS account that we marked up 20%. For that, okay, I'm going to reopen clients here so we don't leave our rule set. Let me open the fantastic company. This is the account that we want to target. We don't want the UPS regular one because this one has no markup whatsoever. Okay, 0% markup. Now this one, 20% markup, okay, is going to have it there. And we don't want orders with TVs going through any other account than this one. So we do have within OMR another action. We can add one more action after we have applied a signature flag to use the billing account, force the billing account that we want to use. In this case, it's called billing account client name. And what you need to do over here, you'll see that you have an open field. There's not a list to choose from or anything. And you copy and paste the name of this account here. Okay. So if you copy and paste it, make sure it doesn't have any additional spaces at the beginning or the end. This is going to force the order through this billing account as well, right? So as you can see, whichever order that includes at least one SKU that includes the word TV in the description will get signature flag on and will be forced through the UPS marked up condition. I have seen many cases like these where, for example, a warehouse has really good discounts for domestic shipments and different discounts for international shipments. So they mark up their international shipments different from their domestic shipments. Okay, so in that kind of case, you could say that, or let's add this rule and define it. You could say something like, well, if the country of origin, or the destination country is different from, if you're shipping from the US, right? It's different from the US. Then use the billing account name, international markup, UPS. Okay. Your account should be called this. Remember that. Okay. But you can perfectly use this kind of condition. You can set conditions based on geography, ship to information, SKU information, weights, dimensions, current day of the day, week, month. I mean, volumes, girth, flags that you might have on. Well, there's a lot of elements that you can set as conditions over here to then apply different actions. And actions could go from basic things that we're doing right now, like applying, turning flags on and off, to overriding information, for example, like the service code and the carrier that we saw before, or forcing something, a specific type of or group of orders through a specific billing account. Okay. Well, let's check scenario 3 with the last few minutes that we have. Scenario 3, regardless of where the shipment is going, if the purchase is over $50 of value, and if it's international, okay, we pay for duties. Okay, so let's assume that in this case, this client is working under a Canadian account, so we're going to take the ship from as Canada. So what we're going to do is say, well, how do we tell the system if a shipment is international or not? Okay, so in that case, I could say, well, if the ship to over here you have ship to name, company, address 1, 2, city, etc. The country is the first thing you see here. So if the country is different from Canada, that means that that's an international order. That's the first thing we want to check. Okay, if it's international. The other thing we want to check if this is the purchase value is over $50. Okay, so in that case, what we're going to do is add another condition: value, total value over $50. Okay. So as you can see, over here we have a point of contact with the first rule. We're going to check that in a few minutes. But over here, we already told the system, if the country is different from Canada and the total value of the order is over $50, what we want to do is pay for duties ourselves. It's going to be DDP. So over here, we're going to type duties. Oh, sorry, duty. And you see that you have 4 fields. Depending on how you have set up your billing accounts and depending on the carrier, this might be supported or not. And in some cases, it will just suffice to say, I want to use the payment terms as sender, okay? Because over here you have receiver, collect, and third party, if you want to change the payment terms. In this case, DDP is sender because you're prepaying for those. And sometimes you might need to also include the other duty payment fields, okay? Account, country, and postal code for billing purposes. Okay, I just added them without any values. Okay, but I mean in a real case, I would do payment terms, sender, account, well, my account number ABC123, for example, then country CA, and then postal code um, ABC 798. Okay, so the carrier, when it gets this information from the order and it is gonna and it handles the duties paid by, it knows that this is that the payment terms are these. It's DDP, and for usability purposes, they know what account is being used for this and the billing country and postal code for their checks on their side as well, and they can actually pass um, this this value and information through. Okay, so by doing something like this, we would be okay, and this scenario would also be covered. Now, as you can see, in just a few scenarios, we already have a logic collision over here, because we said that if the country is different from Canada and the total value is over $50, we're going to be applying DDP. But we also have another rule which collides with this one, which is if the total value is over $100, then do this and that. Assign UPS, force express, and apply the insurance flag. Okay. So this means that orders, we have 2 ranges of orders here, or 3 in fact. The first range of orders are orders under $50. Those remain untouched by the rules, okay? Unless they have a TV, but if you find a TV for less than $50, please let me know, okay? Now, orders that have a value over $50 and are international shipments could also be included in this rule, because over here we say over 50, but over 50 also is 101 and fourth. Okay, so you could have one of these rules apply to that order, and this rule apply as well, and end up with a UPS expedited service, insurance flag on, DDP order. If the order is an international order with a value over $100, um, and these two rules hit at the same time, okay? In this case, the priority might be useful if you want one rule to apply before the other one. In this case, to be honest, it's quite irrelevant. Why? Because these rules are not contradicting each other. It's not that you're saying, well, if the country is not CA and the total value is over $50, then set duty payment terms, sender, and apply all this, and change the service to international expedited or something like that, right? Because in that case, you would have a collision between the service code. One rule says one thing, the other one says the other. Both are both are right when it comes to the conditions. The conditions do meet, and then you have a collision on the logic. Okay, so when defining these rules, generating your rule set, my suggestion is that you build a diagram somehow, uh, on paper, digitally, whichever the case, so you can transparently see where you have collisions and where you do not. Okay. In this case, for example, if I were to handle a case like this one, I would do something like this. Okay. Let me just open PowerPoint, because the way you would define this and know if you have um, logic collisions is by using diagrams. It's the easiest way to spot these possible discrepancies that you might have. Okay, let me add no fill over here. We have one group here for domestic orders. Okay, some of these domestic orders, this realm of domestic orders, some might have TVs. Okay. Um, then there could be international orders having TVs as well. And then I have a group of orders that is over $50. Okay, which could be international and domestic and have TVs. And then there's a bigger group, which is orders that are over $100. Okay, that could be international, could have TVs, and are over $50. See? So if you do it this way, you know where you have the collisions. Okay. In this case, the most complex case could be in these contact areas. Okay, uh, let me group this. Okay, and take this to our Google friend Paint. Okay. In the last few minutes we have. So over here you can identify your pain points. Whatever you have here in these sections could be conflictive. Okay. Why? Because you have too many conditions at the same time. A domestic order, sorry, here, here, and here. A domestic order that is under $50 and has a TV. A domestic order that is over $50. A domestic order is over $100. And same scenario for international. An international order that has a TV but is under $50. International order that has a TV is over $50. And another one that is over $100 has a TV or might not have a TV. See, but well, this is just a quick tip on something that we typically do when we need to evaluate these cases, especially if you have many scenarios that you need to cover at the same time, or many rules that you might need to cover at the same time, this can be useful. Okay. And to wrap up in the last few minutes we have, how do you combine the usage of OMR with advanced restrictions? Okay. We mentioned that advanced restrictions are typically used for rate shopping. Okay. Now, there is one action that you can apply, which is setting the rate shopping groups for an order. And rate shopping groups are, even though they say rate shopping group, they might not be used for rate shopping. They might be used just for to make a difference between different groups of orders. Okay. So for example, you could have a rate shopping group that says, hey, if the order country is different from Canada, I'm just going to use international. I'm going to classify. Imagine this as a tag. Okay. I'm going to tag orders outside of Canada as international. Okay. And this rate shopping group could be used as international when you define the rate shopping elements here. If you go to restrictions, you could say, well, I'm going to allow orders. This is in advanced mode. I'm going to use these services. Let's say UPS Express, Standard, Expedited, Worldwide Express, right? But I'm not going to do this always. I'm going to say, well, whenever the rate shopping group equals international, then I want to rate shop this one and this one. And whenever it's different from international, I want to use these. Okay. Typically, another way to approach rate shopping groups is with shipping scenarios. For example, if you say, let me refresh this over here. If you have groups like coming from shopping carts, right? Like free shipping or express shipping or premium shipping, something like that, right? You have rate shopping group premium, right? And there's another one that is free shipping, okay? And you could define this here. These could come from the WMS as well and be automatically mapped. But I could say, well, if you order over $100, total value over $100 or $100, I'm going to upgrade your shipping to premium. But I still want to rate shop. I don't want to force a specific option there, right? I could say here, oh, I want to rate shop standard. I don't want to rate shop that whenever I get premium, right? But whenever the rate shopping group is premium, I want to rate shop UPS expedited and worldwide expedited. Okay. Oh, sorry, my bad. Here, equal to. And whenever I have free shipping, I want to rate shop express, standard, and worldwide express. Okay. You could add more conditions and say, well, I want premium or I want free shipping as long as the transit days, estimated delivery days, is less than 3 days for, let's say, UPS standard ground. Okay. So if you get free shipping and it makes it in less than 3 days, then consider standard. Okay. Otherwise, just go with express for free shipping. Okay. Or worldwide express. But in this case, your rate shopping structure here with advanced rules directly depends on your OMR rule telling the system, hey, this is a premium order. This is a free shipping order. You need to take a look at this specific value in the rate shopping group to go through that specific rate shopping schema. Okay. Well, we're a little bit past time. I appreciate you joining today. We're going to be sharing this webinar via our YouTube channel within the next few days. And well, I hope you can make the best out of OMR rules within your TechShip environments. If you don't have it, note that this is a feature available for TechShip Plus and TechShip Enterprise. So if you haven't upgraded yet, consider doing so. And well, thank you for joining today and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.